Arcadia is the homeland of the Fae, where banality and mortal bodies are but horrifying nightmares to scare childlings. The idea of Arcadia serves as hope for changelings, hope that the gates to their homeland will open once again, and although all Kithain have at least a few memories from having lived there during the previous ages, no changeling knows how much of this remembrance is real and how much is wishful thinking or fancy. In the end though, what is real when discussing dreaming? Hello, and welcome to a new lore video on Changeling the Dreaming. In the last video, we discussed the history of the Kithain, and in this video, we'll continue, so if you missed the third part, you can watch that here first. Life under High King David was not easy, with banality constantly threatening chimerical life, but under his rulership, Kithain society flourished. Freeholds lost in the war were rebuilt, commoners ventured out into the dreaming in hopes of finding a new way to Arcadia, and the commoner and noble relationships improved by working together in the Parliament of Dreams. The 1990s initially made access to glamour easier for changelings of all social standing. Technological advancements entered into a cycle, propelling contenders to build on discoveries more quickly, granting the public access to new objects that made life easier for both mortals and fae. Mobile phones, computer advancements, and internet access became household staples, while international traveling increased, especially in Europe. EU citizens received free movement, and the membership states that signed the agreement abolished systematic internal border controls, while adapting a common visa policy. Where the freedom of mind worked to the dreaming's advantage during the 1960s, the early 90s aided in fueling glamour by increasing a sense of unification among mortals. Yet it didn't take long before the darkness of the decade reared its ugly side and fueled the dreaming with glamour from more sinister and malevolent forces. The Gulf War, the Yugoslavian Civil War, the Kosovo War, and the Rwandan genocide are but a few of the many events that nurtured nightmares and horrors. In the same way that the space race affected humanity's mind, the perceived closeness and repeated conflicts within short periods of time fueled the darkness from the dreaming. It looked like the end of the millennium would be a happy one for Concordia's subjects until High King David disappeared without a trace. Immediate accusations of assassination and kidnapping spread across the realm. With David missing, the nation entered a tumultuous period that threatened to cast Concordia back into civil war. With several queens claiming rights to power and only one throne, the nation splintered within both Seelie, courts defined by the virtues of honor and love, and unseelie, courts defined by their passion and pragmatism. Numerous debates followed in the Parliament of Dreams, but the more they discussed, the more fragmented the political body became. For a time, the commoners and nobles successfully held the Parliament together, but the increasing number of physical conflicts in the chamber and fewer members attending sessions eventually led to the dissolution of the institution for an indefinite amount of time. In an eerie mimicry of the resurgence when the moon landing inspired hope around the world, came the horrifying events of September 11, 2001. In their wake, the dreaming echoed with nightmare magic, washing over realms with the power of a massive tide, unlocking gateways and pathways to ancient prisons unseen and unvisited since before the Sundering. Trods once again opened across the world as waves of Thalian, Dark Kin, and their minions entered the Autumn world to prepare it for the return of their masters. Without warning, the sky seemingly ripped open, and to those with fairy sight, a red sun appeared, bathing the world in a sinister scarlet light, reminiscent of blood. Scholars named it the Eye of Balor, recorded in a few tomes as belonging to one of the Fomorians imprisoned in the dreaming. Fearing that the Elder Dark would return, or that the eye did in fact herald the long winter, the term changelings used to describe the death of all glamour that is left in this world, panic erupted among the Kithain. Though this second sun vanished a week later, its presence scarred changeling society as the most violent among them adopted a vicious, devil-may-care attitude. During the autumn of 2005, the Parliament of Dreams convened for the first time in years. All contenders to the throne arrived, but suddenly the doors to the chamber flew open, and a gateway from the dreaming appeared, and High King David strolled into the chambers. The High King gave a speech asking all Kithain to come together and fight the returning nightmares. Where the early 90s worked in favor of glamour, the late part of the new millennium's first decade saw an increase in banality. Not only did changelings find themselves at war with dark fae, but they also had to fend off increasing stagnation and disbelief. Even balefires that survived the shattering slowly burned less brightly until only embers remained. Entire changeling communities fell asunder under bickering and physical conflicts over how to best handle what little glamour an area produced. The dwindling balefires in Concordia have changed both the political and social landscape more than any noble is willing to acknowledge. Changelings that return during the decades following the resurgence are blessed by having built foundations to fall back on when glamour supplies diminish. Meanwhile, others have to resort to extremes to survive Banality's growing influence on the world. Looking for change but receiving no solution from their leadership, sinister organizations such as the Shadow Court continue to grow steadily by promising a new world in return for sacrifices and commitment in the name of their cause. The massive rift between fairy nobility and commoners threatens more than the stability of changeling society by drawing attention from where it is needed. Increasing number of Thalian and dark kin enter the Autumn World alongside monstrous chimera and nightmare monsters in order to prepare the world for the Elder Dark. At the same time, some find it easier to cast their lot with the Fomorians, in order to avoid meeting their end with better a nightmare than dreamless sleep as their motto. Nonetheless, the nobility is not immune to the changes in the world. Fear of losing standing and influence in the fairy community spreads throughout the houses. Conflict exists within houses on a larger scale than before, forcing the nobles to look for enemies where there were once brothers and sisters. Insecurity and fear among nobles further escalates the tension with commoners, as freehold trods become focal points of increased military activity, and as refugees from fallen freeholds seek new sources of glamour to sustain them. The Parliament of Dreams endlessly discusses possible solutions, but leaders of both courts delay, prevent, and sabotage agreements in order to maintain full control of their own power. With another civil war threatening to break out, nobility looks for threats among their own, minions of the Elder Dark stalking kingdoms, and decreasing amounts of glamour. The belief that these are the final days of autumn and that the long winter is around the corner only gains strength. In the next Changeling the Dreaming lore video, we'll discuss the nature of the Fae. I make World of Darkness lore videos multiple times a week, so if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember this, Kithain, it is dangerous to dream too little.